Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a celebratory tag video. Now, you might be asking yourself, what am I celebrating? And I think it's important to celebrate all the little things. And so I'm celebrating because I am finally done with radiation. I'm filming this on the 27th and yesterday was my very last radiation treatment, so yay! I'm very excited to be finished with that. It's interesting, the side effects really weren't that bad except for the two that they warned me at the beginning, and I honestly didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but you know, the condition of your skin after radiation can be a bit rough. So I don't know if you can see on my neck there the red bit. So basically I just look like I've got a sunburn. And lotion is my new best friend. I put lotion on the treatment area like 3 times a day. And needless to say, there have been Silence of the Lamb jokes going around in our house. Because why not? So, you know, it puts the lotion on its skin and puts it in the basket, right? I mean, why not? It's a perfect opportunity, right? Oh, and there's also been some Simpsons jokes too, like, grease me up, woman! So, if you don't get those jokes, that's totally fine, but now you know a little bit more about what it's like to live in this house. Oh, and the other thing was fatigue. The fatigue is no joke. They warned me that about halfway through the treatment, fatigue would hit and that it would get pretty bad, and they are right on the money. I'm usually good until about lunchtime, and then I'm done. I need to have a nap, and then I'm kind of just a zombie for the rest of the day until I can go to bed. So anyway, but all of that to say, I am done and I am celebrating. So I am celebrating with a Murder on the Orient Express tag because I love Agatha Christie, and so I thought this is a good celebration. I haven't done a tag video in such a long time. This tag was created by Julie from The Hungry Bookworm, and it's a really fun tag, so let's just get straight into it. The first prompt is Mrs. Hubbard, a multi-dimension book, and so I decided to go for An Instance of the Finger Post by Ian Pears. This book has a lot of layers, a lot of facets. It's very complicated and complex, and so I think it counts as a multi-dimension book. This is a historical fiction set in Oxford in 1663. And I love the framework for this. There are 4 narrators and they each get their part, and you learn more about the mystery as you go and as you learn from each of the different narrators. But what makes it so interesting is that each narrator has their own the thing that is most important to them. So even though they're telling their story of how they're connected to the murder and the mystery, you're also getting more from them, like what's important to them in at what's going on in that time period, and I love that. You also learn, you know, and so because of that, you get people who don't really focus on something that they should be focusing on that they knew about, for example, because something else is more important to them. Anyway, I just really love this mystery. I think it is so well done. It's so interesting. And it's a bit of a chunker, but it is well worth your time. It is a really good historical mystery. Okay, the second prompt is Colonel Arbuthnot. So the first few of these prompts are characters from Murder on the Orient Express. And so I think she did such a good job putting this together. Colonel Arbuthnot, a book with a love affair or mistress. Now, I don't tend to read a lot of these kind of books, and so I was kind of like hunting through the catalog of my books, and this one came up, which is called Royal Mistress, and so I thought, ooh, I'll just do this one. I haven't actually read this book yet. It's by Anne Easter Smith, and it is a book about Jane Lambert, who is the daughter of a silk merchant. She's 22, and her father finds her a match, and she's married off to an older silk merchant called William Shore. And the king's chamberlain, Will Hastings, comes to her husband's shop, and Will knows that King Edward will find her irresistible Edward IV has everything: power, majestic bearing, superior military leadership, essential nature, and charisma. And he wants Jane as his mistress. Okay, number 3 is Mr. Ratchet, a book you love to hate. Now, this was good because, I mean, Ratchet is definitely one of those characters that you love to hate. He's so nasty. But when I was thinking about this, I realized I don't really have any books that I love to hate. I either love books or I hate books, or I just don't like books. But I don't really love to hate them. But when I started thinking about it, and I thought, but there are characters that I love to hate, like Mr. Ratchet, for example. So I'm going to talk about a character instead of a book. And this is a character from a book that I haven't even finished yet, and I already love to hate him. I am currently reading The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, and I am on page 445, and it's just under 1,000 pages, this book. And the character that I love to hate is William. He is despicable. He is awful. And I'm not even, like, I'm only halfway through this book, and he is just already a character that I definitely love to hate. Okay, Princess Dragamiroff, a book that has been moldering on your shelves for a while. Now, this actually wasn't hard for me to find books that fit this description, because my husband and I have this philosophy that we buy books that look interesting to us if we go to book sales, thrift stores, etc. And then we're more than happy to put them on our shelves and read them whenever the mood strikes. And so we have books on our shelves that have been there for years. Now, in 2009, we decided that we needed a better way to catalog the books that we owned, and so we signed up for librarything.com, which is a fantastic website for cataloging your books. It is so good. And so we put all our books in 2009. So all I did was I went to Library Thing and I found a couple of books that have been there from the beginning. So we could have gotten them in 2009, but there's every chance that they were from before that. So these are books that have been on our shelves since the 2000s, and I think that that definitely counts as moldering. This is From Dune with Death by Ruth Rendell. I have read a few of Ruth Rendell's books. She's not my favorite, but there are a few books here and there of hers that I really like. I haven't read this one yet, and I think this is potentially her first book. I'm not entirely sure. This is from 1964. And the other one is, this is a romantic suspense, The Waiting Sands by Susan Howich. I have a few books by Susan Howich on my shelves, and I've read a couple of them, but I have not yet read The Waiting Sands. But doesn't it look fantastic? I mean, just look at that cover. I love it. Rachel, oh, there's a quote on the back. I feel so strongly as if everything here was waiting. The house, the shore, and now these sands are waiting. Rachel had been waiting too, waiting for an end to the nightmare that had already taken 2 lives and now threatened more. Someone Rachel knew and loved had become a murderer and had turned the handsome old Scottish manse into a place of horror. But which face, which dear familiar face, was the mask of the killer? Rachel did not know yet. Doesn't that sound great? Now that I've pulled it out for this video, I'm thinking it's going to go on my cart. I have to read this. This is from 1966. Okay, BEDDOES, a book with the main character in service. And I have a couple again for this one. This is one from the Mrs. Jeffries series, Mrs. Jeffries and the One Who Got Away. These are cozy historical mysteries about an inspector at Scotland Yard, but the main character is actually his housekeeper, Mrs. Jeffries, and she helps him investigate his cases. And I love how she gets all of the servants involved. The staff at the house are all involved. She sends them out on little errands to learn things, and they use their network of staff around London to help them solve the cases. And so this is definitely a series where the main character is in service. And then the other one is, this is Still Life with Murder by P.B. Ryan. This is about a governess. And so I think you could technically say that she's in service. She's an Irish woman who lives in Boston, and she's a governess for this wealthy family. And this one is set in 1868. This is another great historical mystery series. I really love the characters in this one. I love Nell, and I love all the other characters as well. And so yeah, here's another one where the main character is in service. Okay, and now we're moving on to other elements from Murder on the Orient Express. The train itself, another book that features this train. And so this is another book from my shelves that I have not yet read, and this is the 855 to Baghdad by Andrew Eames. It's a travel book, and it's the best travel book of 2004. And it's also the winner of the British Guild of Travel Writers Narrative Travel Book of the Year Award. Travel journalist Andrew Eames was in the ancient Syrian city of Aleppo when he met an elderly lady who had known Agatha Christie. Fascinated by the exotic history of this quintessentially English crime writer, he decided to retrace the trip from London to Baghdad, which she made in 1928. A journey which was to change Agatha Christie completely and led to her other life as the wife of an archaeologist in the deserts of Syria and Iraq. Traveling from London to Baghdad by train on the eve of the Iraq War, though through the troubled areas of the Balkans and the Middle East, Eames found stark contrasts to the old Orient Express route, as well as some unexpected connections with the past. This just sounds really fascinating, and I love that he decided to take the trip that Agatha Christie took. I thought that was so great. So this is definitely one that I do want to read soon. Okay, and then Snowstorm. Famously in Murder on the Orient Express, the train gets stuck in the snow because of a storm, and then all the action is happening while that train is stuck. It's very atmospheric and claustrophobic. So the prompt is to find a book that features a snowstorm or characters stuck in a weather condition. And since my theme has been a lot of books from my shelves that I have not read yet, I've decided to go with this one, which is Blood Upon the Snow by Hilda Lawrence. This is a book from the Golden Age, but it's set in the United States. I believe it's from the 40s. Let me double check. 1944. Detective Mark East is trapped in a wintry world of shifting allegiances and masked intentions. When Mark East arrives at the elegant estate in Crestwood, his employer, Mr. Stoneman, insists he is engaging East only as a private secretary. But why is Mr. Stoneman so frightened? Why does their melancholy hostess, Laura Morey, keep to her room? What secret is little Anne Morey hiding behind her tight-lipped, solemn face? Then, when a woman dies in a mysterious fire and a housemaid suddenly disappears, East discovers that some passions cannot be buried under a peaceful blanket of snow. So there is a snowstorm happening, I think, when Mark East arrives. So I thought this one would count. And this is an author I've never read before, but I have a couple of her books and I'm really interested in trying them out. Okay, and then the last prompt is Yugoslavia. This country does not exist anymore, but it is where the train was when the snowstorm hit. But choose a non-fiction book about Yugoslavia or a novel set in a Slavic country. So I decided to go with a novel that I read in, I think, 2020 that I really loved. I don't own it. I got it from the library, and it's called Girl at War by Sarah Novick. The main character is Anna, and the book is set in Zagreb in 1991, which was the then capital of Yugoslavia, and then New York City, 2001. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really did enjoy this book, and I looked back at my review on Goodreads, and I wrote that it was a fantastic debut novel, going back and forth in time. It tells the story of Anna coming to terms with tragedy and loss. It would have been a 5-star read for me. I wrote if the ending was different, I would have liked to have seen more of a conclusion. But I did enjoy the complicated and interesting characters. So it goes back and forth between Zagreb 1991 when Civil War breaks out and New York City 2001 when Anna is a college student in New York. It also has a really great first sentence. The war in Zagreb began over a pack of cigarettes. So that's my book for the Yugoslavia prompt Girl at War. I think one of the reasons why I liked it so much is that it goes between 1991 and 2001. And in 1991, I was in high school. I was in grade 12. And so these wars that were happening in Yugoslavia and that area were all over the news. They were kind of like a big part of the end of my high school and my early college life. And so you know, there's some nostalgia there too of like the 90s, and so I do really like any books that are set in the 90s, but I thought this one was really well written with a really interesting story. So there you have it. Those are my answers to the Murder on the Orient Express tag. I don't know who's done this tag. I think I'm a little bit late to the game, so I'm not going to tag anybody specifically, but if you are an Agatha Christie fan, I'm going to tag you. If you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. So yeah, there you have it. Are you an Agatha Christie fan? Do you like Murder on the Orient Express? I love mysteries that are set in a snowstorm, or where everybody is like isolated because of a snowstorm, and I'm always looking out for more of those type of mysteries. So if you have one to recommend to me in the comments, I would love that. And I will see you for another video soon.